David Goggins is a ridiculous human being, and I say this with as much respect as I can pay to the man. So why ridiculous? Simply put, I don't think I've ever seen a single person put their body through as much physical stress as he has, and certainly not to come out of the other end to be recognised as the hardest person in the world. In this video, we delve into some of the psychological traits that allow him to grind through the suffering and what makes him mentally tough, all of which you can apply to your own life too. For anyone not in the know, David Goggins grew up as a child that lacked self-confidence, abused by his father and in circumstances that can only be described as tough, all the while struggling at school with learning disabilities. By his own acknowledgement, he was wasting his life away as he got older, living on a diet of chocolate milkshakes and mini donuts, while working in a job he hated as an exterminator. It was on hearing the phrase,
"In a society where mediocrity is too often the standard and too often rewarded,"
that something triggered within Goggins, where he was no longer prepared to accept the life of mediocrity, but wanted to push to see what he was capable of. Since then, he's pushed himself beyond perceived limits to have achieved phenomenal results in physical tests of strength and endurance, many of which are recognised as being some of the most challenging events in the world. However, where he's often most recognised is his ability to push past pain and serious health conditions to achieve these incredible results regardless. This really begs the question, how is he able to continue 100-mile races with broken bones while urinating blood? And yes, that did happen. Well, let's look to understand a little about the psychology of Goggins, which is arguably his biggest strength, regardless of his physical capabilities. David Goggins and Goggins. Probably the biggest influence for me to create this video was actually in understanding this particular point about David Goggins. I was listening to him speak about his psychological method to stay disciplined, and he mentioned a technique he uses of internalization that's incredibly powerful. In his mind, he makes the distinction between two personas, David Goggins and Goggins. David Goggins is who he identifies himself with, representing the scared boy who grew up in the abusive home with learning disabilities. Goggins, on the other hand, is basically who he is seen to be today, an incredibly tough individual who seemingly never gives up, even if it was to cost him his own life. In this scenario, he's got an inbuilt function for Goggins, who will push David Goggins to do feats he didn't think possible. Think of it a little like a personal trainer who helps you go the extra mile when you think you have nothing left. This can be an incredibly powerful method of developing discipline and pushing yourself past your limits, as the internalization process helps you disassociate from your thoughts, identifying those which you want to focus on and leave those that hold you back. The 40% rule. On the subject of pushing past limits, David Goggins is known for going well beyond the perceived limits that any individual is understood to have, often going to extreme levels of discomfort. Highly successful entrepreneur Jesse Itzler once invited Goggins to live with him for a month to try and understand what makes Goggins tick. It was during this period that David Goggins told Itzler about the 40% rule, where Itzler says he told him that when your mind is telling you that you're done, you're really only 40% done. There's usually a strong element of truth to this as well, because our body is naturally hardwired for survival and comfort, which is why we often struggle to find motivation to do things that are hard unless we're really